Hello and welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where we talk about books, games, manga, video, whatever. Doesn't matter. With me is the king of games himself, Bill Barber. I am Matt. How you doing, Bill?
I think the King of Games is a trademark name, so I might not want to take that one. I'm doing great, other than being extremely tired.
Yeah, I think the phrase Yu-Gi-Oh itself is the real trademark. King of Games is just a translation. You can't trademark a translation.
True. I think there's like a gamer out there though that goes by the name King of Games. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, well, it's just a joke anyway.
True.
But it's also pretty accurate, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, you have enough.
Yes, I do.
I feel like once you hit a certain threshold, you can claim that title.
When you reach the point of collecting where you're collecting stupid shit because like you've already kind of got everything you want. Yeah, that's kind of the point where you've you've kind of hit the end of the road.
For reals.
Yeah. Oh, this week was long, very
Yeah,
long.
I'm with you. It's been a weird one because I started the week with like no work on my shelf at all, and I was just kind of going off of this one job that like generally tends to take a while. And like about halfway through that job, I got a shit ton of work all at once, and all of it was overdue. So I had to put that job on hold and start doing all that other stuff. And
That's usually how it goes.
yeah, and then so I have like I work in the blast room, which is basically just I blast everything to get that like nice matte finish on it.
Hmm.
No pun intended. Um, but so there's like manual blast and then there's barrel blast, and all of the wired barrels that we use for the barrel blast have all like worn down, and we haven't gotten any back yet. I'm down to one barrel, so I can only run one job at a time, which is going to be a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just doing normal routine jobs. We haven't had anything super hot this
Mhm.
week. So I actually and I spent half the week making spare parts that we didn't even need. I just kind of made them to get them out of the room.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, at least
Um,
that way, whenever they come up, you got them ready to go.
yeah, apparently they needed them like a year ago, and like they just never got made. And then
Mm.
they fixed the machine that actually like repaired them normally. So we just kind of had these like unfinished parts just sitting in the room for over a year. And I got tired of looking at them, so I finished them to get rid of them.
That's fair enough.
That's generally how most things get like done in our shop because like there for the longest time there was just shit everywhere. And
Mm.
the only way it would ever get like taken care of is if somebody would be just get tired of looking at it and like do something about it.
Mm.
So I had like last Saturday because when we work Saturdays, it's generally just for coverage and to have people in the building. It's not actually because they need us in. It's basically they're giving us free money to just come in and fuck off all day for
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes. So like last Saturday, I literally went in. Well, not last Saturday, the Saturday before Easter, I went in and I literally just like cleaned out the back room of the shop because it hadn't been cleaned, I guess, in like a decade.
Jesus.
There was a table that had just so much shit on top of it that I was like, fuck this. And I just grabbed a trash can. And lo and behold, most of the shit on the table was trash. I was just like,
About right.
I was like, this has been here for 10 years, longer than I've been here.
By a wide margin.
Yeah. I'm like, I was still at Richards when this was probably placed here.
Yeah,
So,
that's about
yes.
right.
So I cleaned that up and I made the back room actually usable as a back room again.
That's nice.
See, the company I work for is hilarious because they literally have a designated portion of the factory. They call it the soup kitchen. I don't know why, but that's what they call it.
That's odd.
Um, and it is literally the designated dumping ground for just shit that people don't know what to do with. So they just dump it out there, and it's kind of like free game basically. If you're looking for something, you can go search the soup kitchen. You might find something that you need.
That that sounds mildly offensive. Is the place where you dump all your trash is it called the soup kitchen?
You know, I've never thought about it that way.
Because I don't know. That was the first thought I had. I'm like, yeah, that seems a little rude to people who are in need.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. The worst part is though, there is legit a hanging sign that says soup kitchen pay well. And I'm just like, I see that all the time. I'm like, they legit like accept this as their dumping ground for like stuff.
Jesus Christ.
There was an entire pallet just filled with like those little like shop trash cans that you see everywhere.
Yep.
And it disappeared one day and no one knows what happened to it. So
Oh shit. I mean, if you got some extra ones, throw one my way. Because every now and then, like last week, we like really needed to go to the dump, and Sunday came around, and we were like, "Fuck, I forgot it was Easter." So the fucking dump was closed, and they didn't open again until Wednesday. Yeah. And obviously, like we're kind of out of luck for a car right now, so like I gotta wait until the weekend when my grandmother goes, and we generally just kind of all go together, but. It's like, man, that just sucks. Would have been nice to have that extra trash can.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So I've been watching through Kai recently, and yesterday I was watching through the Android arc, and something dawned on me for the first time. Out of curiosity, did you ever find it odd that every Android except 17 and 18 had the ability to sense energy?
Yeah, well, I mean, they were technically different, but
they started out organic.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me that it is possible that there is a specific reason for that, and that could be because their purpose really is just to be like a stepping stone for Cell to reach his perfect form. So maybe Giro purposefully didn't give them the ability to sense energy so they wouldn't know he was coming.
You bring up a good point.
Because they had no idea that Cell even existed until he showed up to absorb 17. And if they were able to sense energy, they would have known like when Piccolo fought him.
Yeah. I still can't believe like Goku never met 17 until like Super.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about that. I mean, it's kind of like how when you actually like look at it and you realize, Goku and Chaozu have actually never spoken to each other.
Yeah. There's some really odd things in Dragon Ball that you don't really think about, mostly because the extended like non-canon stuff kind of like tricks your brain into thinking certain things happened, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got my tickets to Spy Family Code White.
Nice.
Alex are going the 20th, I think.
Nice. I'm not sure. We're probably gonna go that Sunday. I mean, I hope it doesn't come back to bite us, but we're not buying them in advance. We're just gonna buy them when we go. But I mean, it's not like we're going opening night or anything. And I feel like if when we went to see Superhero is any indication, I don't think it's gonna be packed. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people there, but I don't think it'll be like sold out or anything.
Yeah, when we saw Superhero and One Piece Film Red, the theaters were like basically empty both times. So.
And the funny thing is for Resurrection F and Broly, the theater was like absolutely packed. Like I think the people I went with, I actually had to sit like a few seats away from because there weren't enough seats to go. Like there's people standing in the halls and everything. Like, but I think for Superhero there was like nothing. It was like only a handful of people.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that these films are getting like worldwide, like full-on releases now, not just like one-day events. Like I think Battle of Gods and Resurrection F in particular were like special events. So you only really had the one shot to go. Nowadays, it's like there's like I looked at the so I was talking to our mutual friend Nave over from Gaming Collecting about this because he was like, I wonder if it's a limited showing, and I looked it up, and there was like 30 different showings like within me and Alex's area, and I was like, no, I think this is a full on like theater release. Yeah, because we had a ton of days. Ironically, the only time that worked for me and Alex was like 9:30 on the Saturday, like the 20th. So,
yeah.
Hey, we'll go get dinner and then we'll go see Spy Family.
Hell yeah. I'm super excited for it. I was reading Spy Family last night. I was reading the cruise ship arc.
Oh,
And
nice.
I was going through the chapter, one of the chapters, I should say, where Yor was fighting all the different assassins. And I swear to God, like throughout this chapter, every time I turned the page, there was another like really bizarre out there Anya face.
Yes.
Like literally every time I turned the page, there was another one, and they were all different, and they were
Endo
all
just
silly
like
as hell.
Endo just really likes to draw those.
Mm.
Yeah, the cruise ship arc in the manga is really good. I actually read that before the anime adaptation because the manga was out before it at that time.
Mm.
And it made the anime version like so much more like impactful just because I already knew like what was going on, and just seeing it actually come to life like that was so cool.
Yeah, I don't know. When I first started watching season two, and I think part of it was because I was watching it week to week, and that kind of made it feel weird because I had never thought of Spy Family as being one that had like arcs, so to speak. Um, so when we started having like, oh, this is like a 5-6 episode arc, I was like, that's kind of weird. Like I wasn't really sure if I liked it or not. And ultimately, I ended up coming around, but I definitely feel like it flows better in the manga.
Yeah, the cruise ship arc is interesting because it's like the first legitimately like real arc that the series has ever had.
Mm.
Um, I will say like the later chapters post it in the manga so far, it gets very interesting. I will say
But
I won't spoil anything because I know you haven't read yet. But, yeah,
yeah, I'm definitely excited to jump into the post season two stuff.
I'll say volume 11, the one with the Damien's lackeys on the cover. Um, there's a storyline in that that is quite shocking, and I will say I won't spoil it, but it is very interesting and fascinating to read.
Oh, so you started reading it?
I already finished it.
Oh, okay. So I know we talked recently, and you said you hadn't gotten into it yet.
So I literally read that Sakamoto Days, the new volume of that, and then I started reading Pokemon Adventures, and then I the weekend ended, and I kind of like this week happened, and I really couldn't get any farther. But I did get those two in before I started because I had them sitting. And I kind of just wanted to like finish them before I moved on to something else.
I get that. Makes sense.
Yeah. Now we have to wait like 5 months for volume 12, which kind of
Yeah.
sucks, but it is what it
Well,
is.
to be honest, I was playing around with the idea of just sticking to the physical releases, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait. I'll probably just end up reading it on Shonen Jump app
Yeah.
once I finish volume 11.
Yeah. I'm tempted to read ahead, but at the same time I kind of like waiting. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I also like having like weekly like chapters to read and stuff. Like I usually let because I have my monthly ones with Super, which is currently on hiatus, and Boruto, which is not. I found out recently, and I'm very happy about that.
Hmm.
But so what I'll usually do is I'll let the One Piece chapters build up, and I'll have like 3 or 4 to read in a row when the monthly chapters come out.
Gotcha.
So I'll probably just keep doing that with the other shows or series that I catch up with, like Spy Family and such. But it's just nice to have that little backlog. It's just like when you run out of things to look at on your phone, you're like, oh shit, I can just go over to Shonen Jump and read these chapters.
True. That is true. Speaking of manga and anime and weeb stuff in general, our topic for today's episode is we're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, which
Just
definitely
all
bound to happen.
yeah. And when we say Yu-Gi-Oh, we mean like all things Yu-Gi-Oh. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not just the anime, manga, or card games. We're going to cover basically everything.
Whatever we feel like, pretty much.
You know what I always find fascinating about Yu-Gi-Oh?
What's that?
Asking somebody what the first thing from the Yu-Gi-Oh universe that they discovered.
You know, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it was the first episode of the show, but I can't honestly tell you that I remember specifically the way I do with, say, Dragon Ball or Pokemon. Like a
Yeah,
Pokemon, I could say for sure. I don't know what episode, but Pokemon, I could say for sure. I saw the anime first, and then I got into the games. Um, for Dragon Ball, I could tell you the exact episode, but
Hmm.
with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's vague, but I'm fairly certain it was the first episode.
See, for me, it was actually the card game because
Oh.
When that came out, so the card game was definitely like late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember because it basically took over the playing card like kind of world for like a good couple of years because like it actually kind of usurped Magic the Gathering as like the main card game in the US for a while.
Oh. I actually didn't even know about Magic the Gathering until like years after getting into Yu-Gi-Oh. I had never even heard of it.
Magic, like I'm not a tabletop card game guy. I kind of my history with card games started and ended with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Hmm.
Um I knew about Magic though because everybody like wouldn't shut up about it back in the day.
Hmm.
Um but I mean also Pokemon, but I still to this day didn't know anybody that actually played the game.
Yeah, I certainly. I think I tried to learn how to play Pokemon card game like once or twice when I was a kid, and I just could not wrap my head around because I feel like like how when we used to get like starter decks and stuff like that for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, it would always come with a little like instruction booklet, and it would kind of explain the rules of the game or whatever. I
Yeah.
feel like back in the day, these booklets were not very user friendly.
No, they weren't at all.
And I've seen like the more current ones for say Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's much more easy to understand than the ones we got in the original starter decks.
You know how I discovered how to play Yu-Gi not Yu-Gi-Oh, the Pokemon card game?
Was it the Game Boy Color game?
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Cuz
me
it
too. Actually, I think while we were working at Richards together was when I was actually playing it on my phone, and I was specifically playing the Game Boy Color game so that I could learn how to play the game, so that I could then teach Xander how to play because he wanted to play the game.
yeah. Like it was to me like I never was a Pokemon card collector because I just thought that was like a waste of money at the time.
Hmm.
Ironic.
Yeah, right.
But what's funny is I had never played the game like with cards, but I was always like the mediator and like kind of like judge for people at school who tried to play it because I knew how to play the game because of
Hmm.
the Game Boy game, and that was a fun thing for a while. Like I'd literally be like the instructor and coach. I'd basically be like the game master all the time,
Yep.
which was kind of fun. Um, but yeah, the first my first experience with Yu-Gi-Oh was legitimately the card game because it was everywhere for the longest time. And I remember like in school, like everybody was playing it. And this is back when like peer pressure and shit actually mattered. And like if you weren't playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you were kind of a weirdo.
Yep.
So I like had to be, I had to play somehow. But of course, cards were expensive at the time.
Still are.
And I mean, yeah, they still are. But like when you're a kid with no income and you have to ask your parents for like menial things, it's like not the easiest thing in the world. And basically, like at that point, my parents kind of didn't get it.
Hmm.
So I was out of luck. Until do you remember when McDonald's was doing like the Yu-Gi-Oh like Happy Meals?
Yes, I do remember that. I remember there was some specific cards too that were always featured. It was the was it Saryu? Something like that. It had the same
There was
attack as Dark Magician. It was like a pink dragon thing.
yep. So there was McDonald's for their Happy. Remember back when McDonald's actually had fun Happy Meals that like were actually cool.
Oh yeah.
They were doing a Yu-Gi-Oh promotion where you would get a card that wasn't in any of the starter decks. And
Mhm.
I believe the only other way you could get said cards was through booster packs, which was a random chance.
Yeah, booster packs back in the day were brutal.
Yeah, I hope you like 7 energies and one maybe decent Pokemon.
Yeah.
But so I that was how I got my first Pokemon. I'm not Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh card,
Hmm.
and I still have it to this day.
Oh, it was
Uranzo.
Uranzo. Yeah, I remember him because Duke Devlin had him.
Yep, most famous from that episode. But like I had this card for years. It's also holographic, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um,
I remember my first card was Hard Armor. It was a very shitty zombie card. It's literally just an empty suit of armor with I think it had like 1200 defense, and that was it. That's all I had going for it.
to be fair, this ain't much better.
I
This is a you put on the field and then tribute it card right away.
remember at
Um,
my start of like Yu-Gi-Oh, I had like 4 cards to my name, and one of them was hard armor, and one of them was a blue eyes, and then there was like two other shitty. It was probably like Terra the Terrible and something like that. Like, those ones that everybody had.
It's funny for me. Like blue eyes was like the ultimate goal because like only like some people had them. So I guess going on with the story, like I got this one Yu-Gi-Oh card,
Mm.
and of course, then I thought this meant I could play, which my dumb child self quickly learned. No, you need an actual deck of cards. You can't play with one card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I eventually, well, once my parents kind of realized how much of this wasn't just a fad and this was going to be a big thing for a while, they relented and got me one of the starter decks, which I believe was actually the Pegasus starter deck,
Oh wow.
which at the time I thought was awesome because that fucking episode looked so fucking cool. And
Mm.
then you learn really fast, yeah, the cards can't do that in the actual game.
Right.
Like you
The
can't
tune
just
cards.
dodge attacks because you feel like it. Like
Mm.
uh yeah, so I learned really quickly that those Pegasus deck really wasn't that great in hindsight.
Although Relinquished is honestly pretty good.
Relinquished was good, but the majority of the deck was toon monsters that you couldn't even use without their counterparts anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Which the deck only came with like a couple of those. So
Plus, nobody back in the day really actually knew what Relinquished did because it had that teeny tiny writing on it, and no kid would bother reading.
yeah, what kids could read? To be fair though, most kids didn't even know how to play. They followed the show, and the show did not know how the fucking game worked either.
Nope. Even when it did, it didn't.
Yeah. You know
Oh
what's
god.
funny? They had the 4 starter decks back in the day. It was the Yugi deck, the Kaiba deck, the Joey deck, and the Pegasus deck. I don't know if this was just me or like you saw this too. I never saw the Kaiba or Yugi decks.
Um, I did, but only at specific. Like I remember specifically, actually, the CVS I live near right now used to sell them. I remember that specifically because we used to go there for, used to be able to get anything at CVS back in the day.
Hmm.
But they had the Yugi, Kaiba, and Joey decks, I believe, when I was a kid. I remember buying one of them there.
For me, like I could only ever find the Pegasus and the Joey deck. I could never find the Yugi or Kaiba decks, which is really funny because once they got around to like the second edition, like Battle City decks, starter decks,
Mm-hmm.
then I could only find the Yugi and Kaiba deck, and I couldn't find the other two,
Yep, it's about
which
right.
was bizarre.
Yeah, it was. They swapped out Pegasus for Merrick, right?
Yes, I never saw the Merrick deck. I saw the Joey deck occasionally, but like the Merrick deck, I swear that like didn't exist.
It wasn't anything special. It didn't have Egyptian god cards like you'd want it to.
No.
I don't even
Um,
remember what card it was that it had. I know it had like Revival Jam and like what the hell was the monster on the front? I don't know. It wasn't anything important.
yeah. I always remember that though too, because the Yugi and Kaiba decks were like so scarce. Nobody had a blue eyes. Like it was so hard to find blue eyes white dragons. So like if you had one, you were like considered like the king shit.
Well, I don't even remember how I got mine, but I was really lucky to get one like before I even had a deck. I had a Blue Eyes, which was really cool.
See, I lucked out and got my blue eyes in a booster pack like years down the
Wow.
line. But this was like after like people stopped caring, so it was kind of like, yo, blue eyes, no one cares anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Darn.
It's about right.
I did
Although
have a red eye. I had a red eyes though.
Red Eyes is so. I mean, honestly, I like Red Eyes more than Blue Eyes anyway.
Red eyes is still my favorite line of cards. I still have this nice like gold trimmed one that I've had forever.
Nice. There you go. The classic print.
The classic print. I hate that they reprinted like a lot of the cards. Like
All like the main like iconic ones. Like it's hard to find the original designs nowadays.
I have this black red eyes black metal dragon, but good luck finding the original print of this.
Yeah, one of the most useless monsters ever.
But you don't like metamorphosize?
No, honestly, you're better off just attaching Metalmorph or whatever the hell it is to a regular Red Eyes and just leaving it as is.
Oh yeah. And this like shows how fucking common blue eyes are now. Here's a pack of blue eyes and that awful third print that I hate. There's like 12 blue eyes in here because they're so fucking common now.
Yep. But
Oh
yeah.
boy.
So where did you start watching the show with Duelist Kingdom, or?
Yes. My start point was like the worst fucking place to start. It was literally the episode with like the mind trip dream after they already got into the castle.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly. It was right before the final started, right?
Yeah, it was right after. Actually, no, I think it was right. Yeah, right before the Yugi versus. So it was right after Kaiba and Pegasus, but like right before Yugi versus Mai.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I was just watching it. I'm like, what the fuck is this show? Because it was like just Pegasus trolling them.
I know exactly the one you're talking about because I think I still have that VHS tape of those episodes.
Because this is back when you had to catch it on Toonami, and it was so late at night that you'd have to like catch it like before you went to bed, basically.
See, I had the reverse of it. I only ever caught it on Kids WB.
So like that channel was harder for us to find for some reason.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we had DirecTV, and for some reason, like that channel was it was harder to find that like because Kids WB wasn't its own channel; it was like a block.
Mm-hmm.
And like we always missed the block for whatever reason. At least Toonami was always on Cartoon Network at a certain time.
Yeah, there was definitely something to be said for having basic cable.
Yeah, and I got kind of lucked out because it would usually play after like Alex's like Sailor Moon episode, so I could like catch it before I went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It was better than having to get up at 5 a.m. to watch Inuyasha, but that's for
hell.
another story time. Yeah, and Toonami never played the damn episodes in order.
Yeah, that was always such a bummer whenever they do that. Toonami was weird back in the day.
Honestly, the way I experienced most of the Yu-Gi-Oh episodes back in the day was I had we had a local Blockbuster back when those were still a thing. And I would just rent out a VHS tape every couple of weeks.
You know what? I think. Did you ever see Capsule Monsters?
Was that the
It was like a little side story, like mini series kind of thing for Yu-Gi-Oh. I think if they still have the whole show in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think they slotted it into like season 5 or something. But it's not like actually a part of the main show. It's like a side show.
I don't remember that one.
Because I remember renting a DVD of it from Blockbuster. It was like one of the few times I actually got to pick a movie from Blockbuster, and it was like 4 or 5 of those episodes. And it was weird because it was kind of a little bit like the virtual world stuff. But
the first virtual world or the second virtual world?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But it was weird because they had like these little like apparatuses on their arms. They weren't dual disc. They were like little like launchers or whatever. And you get these little capsules, and these would represent the monsters. And you put the thing in the little machine, and it would shoot them out. And it was really bizarre because it revolved around. They went to like South America or something, and they found like one of those old pyramids, and they were like, "Oh, friggin', this like transports us to this like alternate world or whatever." And all the same monsters are here, just like in all the other alternate worlds that we have, and this is how we use them here. It was really weird.
See, the VHS tape I always remember like taking out back in the day was because Blockbuster had most of them. I think it was missing like 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 I would always pick out for whatever reason was Face Off, which was the infamous. That was the infamous episode where like Yugi versus Kaiba on the roof and Kaiba cheats.
I had that one too.
I mean, that one's iconic just because it was the first appearance of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
Yep.
I have one of those around here somewhere.
Where each of the heads had its own attack points.
Yeah, that totally is how it worked.
That's why nobody knew how to play the game.
Yeah. What, you mean you can't destroy the Dark Castle of Illusions flotation ring and drop it on top of the monsters below?
I had that VHS tape too.
Oh yeah, here he is.
There we go.
So I remember I would always rent that episode, and then the other one I would always rent was the one that had the first virtual world arc, the computer game thing.
Yeah, the one that was like Zelda.
Yeah, where like Kaiba was being a dork like he always is,
Of course.
and was making his own computer game basically, and they all get trapped in the computer game because for the one of the many times where like the Kaiba Corp executives go rogue.
Yeah, right.
That happens a lot in this series, and it never ends well for them. So I don't know why they keep trying, but
I don't know. What made less sense to me in that little like mini arc was how Kaiba was just like, I know you all betrayed me to Pegasus, but I'll let it go this time.
Yeah,
for them to immediately betray him
again. Yeah. I always remember that arc because that arc was really cool because they really because this was still at the tail end of like the rules didn't matter and you could just play whatever fucking card you wanted. So there was just a bunch of cool cards. Plus, I've always loved the dragon cards, and there was so many fucking dragons in that arc.
Mm-hmm.
But I always remember because the big reveal at the end was the Dragon Master Knight.
Yes, which is one of those cards that is such an outrageously pain in the ass card to play, and like, almost not even worth it.
For people who don't know, to summon a Dragon Master Knight, you need 3 blue eyes, 2 polymerization cards. You need
Blackluster Soldier.
Blackluster Soldier, so you also need his ritual card. Plus you need a shitload of things to tribute.
Mm-hmm.
And to do this, this is so hard to set up. Like you need to literally, you have better luck playing Exodia, to be perfectly honest.
Honestly, yeah. Especially if you load your deck full of Sangan and Witch of the Black Forest.
Oh yeah. But the benefit of this card is if you do set it up just right, and you have like, because this card's gimmick is every dragon on the field adds like, how much? Adds 500 attack points to this to its attack. If you have like 12 dragons on the field, the thing becomes fucking invincible. But it's not worth the hassle.
Yeah. Oh man, Yu-Gi-Oh was such a. I mean, I say was. It's still around. It's one of those weird things where like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh were always like kind of rivals in the same like stream, and everyone always used to say, "Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh just copies Pokemon," but Yu-Gi-Oh came out like the same year.
So, yeah, it did, and they're not even remotely similar.
No, not even close. But it's just weird because I feel like even though Yu-Gi-Oh is still around, they're still selling cards, they're still making anime. I feel like at its core, it didn't have the same staying power as Pokemon.
It didn't have the same like vibe, honestly.
Oh no, I mean it definitely was. Well, I mean, first of all, it had like actual story arcs, whereas Pokemon was very episodic.
It also it's kind of similar to the whole Pokemon Digimon thing. To me, honestly, the reason why Pokemon has had the staying power that it's had is because of the games.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not that Yu-Gi-Oh has had any shortage of games either.
It hasn't, but the Yu-Gi-Oh games are so hit or miss. It's not even funny.
Yeah, that's true. You know what I wish? I wish we'd get a Yu-Gi-Oh game based off of Season 0. Where it's like not even about the card games.
Season 0 was like the weirdest fucking thing to me as a kid because obviously, for those who don't know, Season 0 was the previous attempt at a Yu-Gi-Oh anime that was released before the main one. Toei Animation did the animation.
I didn't even know it was Toei.
Yeah, it was Toei Animation, which is very interesting comparing it to the studio that did the rest of the series. It looks so much less harsh.
Yeah, it's a much softer art style, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Except for when the Pharaoh came out.
But he's just pointy in general.
Yeah, but he was also. I mean, everything would also get super dark whenever he'd show up because he was kind of fucked.
Yeah. I remember the Season 0 learning about it from like magazines because like they would show like promotional art from it, and I was always like, "What the fuck is this show?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember any of these characters. Why are the cards black? Like,
There's a movie for it too.
yeah, none of it was dubbed, so it's like if you want to watch it, you have to deal with subs.
Yeah,
Um,
unless you want to watch season 0 abridged.
yeah, I mean, hey, it's actually probably better than the actual show itself. But speaking of season 0, though, season 0 kind of matters because if you watch Yu-Gi-Oh from episode 1, it doesn't make any sense because they cut out so much fucking manga.
Oh yeah, because if you look at like the Yu-Gi-Oh series, like Dual Monsters that we're all familiar with from our childhoods, um, that first episode pretty much takes place like in what would be like volume 7 or 8 of the manga.
Yeah,
So it's
there's
like it skips over a lot of stuff, and that's what a lot of that is what season 0 covers.
yeah, it's like you miss so much character, and it's like you just kind of have to assume these people know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Can we also take a minute to talk about the wonderful 4Kids dub?
Oh, it's fucking fantastic. Dan Green, he's the man.
So the actors themselves are great. The dub itself, though, is hilarious for how much 4Kids just like fucked it up.
Oh yeah, it's super funny though. It's one of those things where it's like I always kind of come back to it every now and then. Like at this point, it's been years, but like every now and then I'll like go over to my cousin's house or something, and my little brother will be there, and they'll just be watching Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'll just sit down and watch it with them because it's one of those things where it doesn't even matter if it's like a shitty arc or something stupid's happening or if it's a cool part. Like it's just incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, like I can't get over like Joey's Brooklyn accent that they gave him for no reason from Wayne Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Green as Yugi is iconic, especially his Pharaoh voice. Um, why am I forgetting Kaiba's voice? Eric Stewart. Eric
Yeah.
Stewart just fucking hams it up the entire time.
Yeah. He just sounds like Brock in his first appearance of Pokemon.
Yeah. Tristan's voice changes throughout the series. He had
once.
He had such a doofy voice the first like 10 episodes.
It sounded like Bullwinkle.
Yeah, and then they changed it to his much more they changed it to the much better voice that he had the rest of the series in his Spotlight episode.
Yeah, they tried to make him like kind of like a cool guy, but he didn't know how to play card games, so he was like the joke. He was like the Yamcha of their group.
Kinda. That's why he got put in a robot monkey for like an entire season.
Which honestly is just wonderful.
That whole fucking we'll get to it eventually, but that the virtual world arc is still one of the biggest like what the fuck is this kind of things.
It was one of just a brief aside, it was one of those arcs where like the concept of it was cool. Like the concept of like having a deck master and like having have different effects and stuff, that was cool. I like that. I was like, I wish that there was an actual like rule for that, like a different play style.
The arc itself was cool. It was the fact that they stuck it in the middle of an arc that was active. Was like, what?
But that's exactly the thing. Is the whole time I'm thinking like this is kind of cool, but like, isn't Merrick like a psychopath that's on the ship with a bunch of people in a coma?
It happens right after Merrick fucking puts Mai in a coma, and he's gone fucking insane. And then they just fucking cut to this shit, and he just chills on the fucking plane the entire time.
And like, I'm pretty sure like right before they went to that little virtual world section, I'm pretty sure he had just tried to stab a bunch of people in their sleep.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, I guess he's fine over there.
He's like, well, they can't fight back, so I don't want to do it right now. I'll wait till they wake up, and then I'll try to kill them.
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
It was such a the placement of the arc is honestly the biggest what the fuck. Because as a kid, you like if you missed, say, the episode that introduced it, and you're just all of a sudden like watching this, you're like, what the fuck happened to Merrick and all that shit?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now we're in this fucking weird ass place.
For real.
Oh god, I honestly the thing I remember most from that arc was Exodia Necros.
Oh yeah, that was one of those cards that I always wanted, but I never had the pieces of Exodia, which you need to summon them.
So I have a full set now, just because like as a kid this was like crack cocaine. Because like everybody wanted the full Exodia set, and if you had I remember like if you just had like his fucking leg, you were considered like the cool kid.
To this day, I only have 3 pieces.
So the benefit of nowadays is you can buy them all on like fucking eBay for like $5.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's
It's
always
like
kind of been it's always been kind of like one of my childhood dreams to pull them from packs. And now that they've re-released the old packs, now I'm kind of like, I kind of want to
yeah.
put the money into it, but I really can't afford to.
You're like, it's not the same, damn it. But me, who had like none of them and didn't have any nostalgia, was like, hey, all the Exodia pieces for $5, thank you.
Mm.
And then it also came with like Exodia Necros, um, summoning card you need for it, and then this weird like legendary Exodia Incarnate card that I never heard of, but hey, it's here.
I think I saw that in Duel Links.
I guess it's like the better version of Exodia Necros. I don't know.
Yeah, because with Exodia Necros, I think you have to have all the pieces in the graveyard.
Yeah, it's weird. Exodia is such a weird concept to me.
Yeah,
Like they introduce it in the show with like Yugi just has it in his deck, and then like he immediately loses it because he lets the obvious slime ball look at his cards on a cruise ship hanging over the edge, and it's like, oh, he threw him in the ocean. What did you expect?
yeah.
And then Joey, being the genius he is, jumps in the fucking ocean to go get them.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny with like the 4 kids like localization, how they call him Joey, like how in the manga his name is Jonichi,
Yeah,
but but even when I'm reading the manga, I still read his lines with the Brooklyn accent.
it's just become part of it. Like there's a reason why everyone still refers to him as Joey because it's just like we're so used to it at this point.
Yeah, nobody calls Tristan Honda.
No, because it's like we just kind of got stuck with him.
Yeah, it's just embedded in our brains at this point.
Yeah. Duelist Kingdom though, honestly, it's my favorite season just because of how absurd it was, but like at the same time, it made no fucking sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just pulled shit out of nowhere. Like Kaiba's evil doppelganger happened at one point.
Yep.
um
What was your favorite like what the fuck victory in Duelist Kingdom? Because there was pretty much every duel had one of them.
um there's a few like Joey lucking into like 5 wins was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it
Um
was almost always Thousand Dragon too.
Yeah, well, actually, my favorite is like he uses Thousand Dragon like for like the first like 4, and then like he tries it on a Rex Raptor and he just stomps on it. He's like, "You left a baby unattended," and it's like,
God,
uh,
I remember how he'd always put the Time Wizard in the spell trap zone.
yeah, because also like the first like 3 appearances, he just doesn't follow the rules of Time Wizard at all,
Nope.
and then like suddenly when it matters, he's like, "Oh right, Time Wizard has an effect that you're actually supposed to use," and then they just use it for the rest of the series. It's like, oh, I guess I can't just cheat anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorites was in it was actually the final match in the tournament when Joey is pretty much like destroying Yugi throughout the whole match, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do my Time Wizard thing that always works," and then he does it, and he's like, "Haha! Now your Dark Magician is old and decrepit." And he's like, "Yeah, he's a wizard. That makes him more powerful." Like
Yeah.
because that's how that works.
Final Fantasy IV tells me different. For people who have played Final Fantasy IV, you'll understand that one. Um,
I'm not quite there yet. I still got 2
yeah,
more.
trust me, you'll get it when you get there. But
Right on.
yeah, that fight bothered me because it was like Joey legitimately like actually was having a good duel.
Yeah, he was. That was like the first time he was actually like doing well throughout the whole thing.
I mean, his duel against Bandit Keith was pretty good as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he won that one legitimately too, and Bandit Keith was the one that cheated the whole time
That's true.
and still lost.
He beat a lot of cheaters.
Yeah, he my cheated.
He got kidnapped by the zombie kid and Bandit Keith, and
They cheated. Didn't the twins kind of cheat as well?
uh, I feel like maybe. I don't remember if they actually cheated in the game itself. I think like their stupid little like which door should you go through riddle was like the real cheat.
Oh yeah, that completely got forgotten halfway through the duel.
Yeah, the introduction of the was it the Black Skull Dragon too? I fucking love that card.
That is one of my favorite episodes, even though like that duel can't happen in real life. Like there's just that doesn't work.
Yeah, how does that wall card actually work? Because I never understood how that card really works.
I think I have a labyrinth wall, but I've never fucking used it because
Well, not
it's
even.
literally
I was gonna say not even the labyrinth wall, like because that's the monster. There was like a spell card that they used with it to make it like change.
yeah, that card exists. I had it as a kid. I don't have it anymore, but
But the grid, the whole concept of the grid field isn't a thing. So how the hell, what does it actually do?
yeah,
Like,
that's
that's my question because nobody knows. Nobody knows what it does.
also Yugi somehow always like managed to make magical hats work, even though like in reality, like it's like such a small chance you'd always be perfect with it.
Yeah. Well, he has main character powers, so
Yeah, I've always remembered too, like the double duel episodes were always cool, even though in reality double duels kind of sucked.
yeah, they're a pain in the ass. And it's
You're
just like, how do you figure out who goes when? And it's just dumb, especially once I mean, technically the real rules always had this, but in Battle City, when it was just like, oh yeah, you can just attack people directly.
yeah. Yep. Um, where was it? Oh yeah, thinking of episodes from season one, Duelist Kingdom.
Mhm.
The Bakura episode is still one of the most hilarious ones.
Oh, when he traps them in their favorite cards. I
Yeah,
loved that one.
this is right after Joey got fucking annihilated by Kaiba too.
Yep,
Because
with his dog outfit.
yeah, because Kaiba's just fucking like trying to rescue his brother, so he's just kind of fucking about the island at this
Mhm.
point. Um, but he decides to kick Joey while he's down because that's just Kaiba's thing.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but that happens, and then they go to like they meet Bakura, who just appears everywhere. He's got a Millennium item as well. It's kind of evil and it follows him. Um, we
Yeah.
don't we don't learn much about it until a movie like decades later. But
Well, I mean, you learn about it in season 5.
well, we don't learn how he got it until like the movie like years later.
True. Except
Um,
for like, I think he like kind of like waves it away, like, oh yeah, my dad found it and gave it to me, or he like
yeah,
some guy was selling it in a shop in Egypt because apparently everybody in fucking Japan goes to Egypt in Yu-Gi-Oh world
yeah,
because that's just what you do, I guess, if you're in Japan.
yes. Um, so yeah, that was that episode is hilarious, mostly just because you get all the characters like in cosplay, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's actually, I think that's the episode that made me like the Flame Swordsman, even though it's a bullshit card. It sucks.
Why is it a fusion monster like in every like in the anime?
And not only is it a fusion monster, but it's a fusion where one of the fusion material monsters is also a fusion. So you have to do 2 fusions to play the Flame Swordsman, which isn't even a good card.
Yeah. Um yeah, Joey used it back before Joey got his red eyes. That was like his go-to like card for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What was Tristan was the fucking like
The Cyber Commander.
cyber commander because Tristan's deck sucked.
Yep.
Um
And the only thing he had going for him was the Swamp Battle Guard or whatever. And even that, if you look at that objectively, that's a bad card too.
yeah, it only really helped during that one episode because they were just doing a gimmick.
And it only worked
Um
in Duelist Kingdom because you didn't have to sacrifice monsters because it was like a 6-star monster for some reason.
yeah. Teo is like one of the weakest cards in the game. Um
Mm-hmm. But actually, one of the most useful cards, I would argue.
True.
Being able to pull a spell card out of the graveyard is always useful.
Yes. And then and then of course Bakura was a fucking magic card because that made sense.
Yep.
Uh that was the first defeat of the ring, but we found out many times that ring just keeps coming back.
Yep. That ain't going nowhere.
Um trying to think of another good one.
In Duelist Kingdom.
Yeah, Duelist Kingdom was interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously the first one we saw with Weevil, with the Great Moth and the Summon
Oh
Skull.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the first appearance of the Summon Skull.
Yes, I think so. Oh yeah, we also have to talk about Yugi's grandfather getting body snatched from a TV early on in the series.
You know what's really funny about that is they only kind of like barely touch on it, but in the manga, he's like literally in a TV. Like Yugi's carrying around this little like bulky portable TV, and his grandpa is just inside it talking to him.
The manga sounds like it was so much more entertaining.
It really, like, honestly, I like maybe once we like get to a point where like maybe like a good cutoff point, like after the Fire Red Leaf Green Emerald stuff, like maybe like in between doing Pokemon, we should do some Yu-Gi-Oh, because that's another thing that people don't talk nearly enough about is the Yu-Gi-Oh manga.
Yeah, I'd have to get some of it because I don't have any of it at the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe at some point.
Yeah, because the Yu-Gi-Oh manga is just incredibly entertaining. I still need to get, I think, 6 more of the 3-in-1s, but I think I'm gonna start getting them, even if I only have to get them one at a time.
I still can't get over when me and Alex watched Dark Side of Dimensions like a couple of years ago. I still can't get over her comment where she was just like, "Yuki's grandfather has a punchable face."
Apparently, because he gets punched a lot.
Yeah, Alex just wanted to punch him in the face for some reason. I was like, all right, Alex is letting the savage out again.
Oh yeah. Oh god. That's okay because he dies in Bonds Beyond Time.
That's sad.
He's revived afterwards, but
Oh,
because the whole thing revolved. Did you ever see that one?
nah,
No.
I'll have
It
to
was
catch
it
that.
was it was pretty fun. It was they took the main 3 protagonists from the first 3 shows, Yugi, Jaden, and Yusei, I think.
Oh, that one. I have to see that. I've only heard about it.
And they fight the guy who is the time travel guy who's played by Sean Schemmel.
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, like in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh movies, the only ones I have experience with are the infamous Yu-Gi-Oh movie and Dark Side Dimensions.
I'm pretty sure there's only, well, actually no, technically there's 4 at least.
Yeah,
Because there's the season 0 movie as well.
true.
But we never got that one over here.
Um. So yeah, we also never mentioned too, like Joey. Like Joey is like firmly established with like the Red Eyes Black Dragon for most of like basically the franchise,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't even get it until like halfway through season 1.
And then he loses it at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, and he doesn't like really get it back. Well, it's never confirmed when exactly he got it back. The biggest implication is he got it back at the end of season 2.
Season 3 actually, because season
Right.
2 ends with them going into the virtual world.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot they cut the arc in half. The season.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, he gets it at the end of season 3 because him and Yugi have a duel. Basically, he wants to win it back fair and square, so they have a duel, and he has it in Waking the Dragons. We'll get to that. We'll get to that eventually.
He kicks ass in that one, that arc.
I know he does, but I hate that arc because it's so fucking stupid.
It is, but it has its moments.
He has his red eyes again in that, so it's implied that he won the duel, even though it's never shown on screen.
Mm-hmm. Because every duel that supposedly Yugi lost is never shown on screen, except for that one time.
Well, the one time Kaiba cheated. Yeah, that was like the one duel we saw him lose.
Well, I mean, there was also the what's it called? It was during the Waking of the Dragons. He lost a duel in that too.
Yeah, we'll get to it. You can tell I don't like that arc very much. Yeah. So I guess going at the end of well, we should talk about the end of Duelist season 1 is weird because after the Yugi versus Pegasus fight is really epic, but I forgot how fucking long it was.
I mean, it was for Yu-Gi-Oh! It was pretty long. I think it was only like 5 or 6 episodes total.
I was used to duels being like 2 episodes a max, so like when it was like 5 episodes, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, but once you start getting into like the later Battle City stuff, the duels start getting very long.
True.
Like I think
Um,
Yugi versus Kaiba in Battle City is like 5 episodes long.
See, nowadays it's not a problem because we can just go onto Hulu and watch the series willy nilly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Back in the day, though, you'd have to like wait for the damn episodes every week, and it'd be like they'd show you like the first two parts, and then they'd suddenly shift to like some other episode. You're like, God damn it!
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so you had to rely on the VHS tapes, and sometimes the VHS tapes didn't even have all of it. You had to buy two VHS tapes.
Yeah, I think I only had the second one for the Yugi Pegasus duel.
Yeah,
And in that one, I believe the second VHS tape picks up right when they enter the shadow realm,
yeah.
quote unquote.
um, there was a lot of Bizarro episodes after Yugi defeated Pegasus too.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's the episode with Shadi where he gets like takes the trip through Yugi's mind.
Yeah, that one was weird.
Then there's also the episode with like Yugi's grandfather's friend's daughter that shows up.
Oh yeah, Rebecca.
She's annoying, and she comes back a lot, as we learn.
Yeah, in your favorite arc.
I know. And then the arc after it.
Yep.
And then there's obviously the virtual world arc, which I love the computer game arc, I should say. I love that arc. I love that arc because it's so fucking dumb. Mai shows up with it as a boss at one point, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just here."
So yeah, I'm play testing the game for Kaiba Corp. He's like, "What?" It's like, I feel like that should have been told to us at some point. Like, why are they play testing this game when obviously like the admins of Kaiba Corp are using it for nefarious purposes?
See, I love the part in that where they have to win the Nematori, I think it's called card, the walking chicken desert creatures.
The Chocobos.
Basically, I forgot what they're called. It's like Nematori, Weeninatori, some stupid name.
I think you had it right. It's something like that.
But they win the card, and then like they're going across the desert, and Joey's all like, "Go drumsticks!" And Mai's like, "Guys, Joey named his chicken." Yeah.
Oh jeez.
That was a weird arc. Also, that was the introduction of the 5-headed dragon as well.
Which honestly, I like that one a lot more than Master Dragon Knight.
Yeah, well, that one you can just summon like any 5 random dragons to make it.
Yeah, it's just any 5 dragons you just fuse together to make it, which I personally, it's a lot more usable. It's a lot more realistic. And plus, I just like dragon decks, so it's always good to
have. Yeah, so that arc ended, and then we got the wonderful Dungeon Dice Monsters arc.
Yep.
The stealth pilot for a show that never came off the ground.
Yeah, which I mean, I could have taken or left the show, but it would have been kind of cool, even just like if they just done like a video game for it, which I think you told me at one point that they did, but it wasn't very good.
There was the Game Boy Advance game, which I mean, it's fine. It's just Dungeon Dice Monsters isn't a good game.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think Yu-Gi-Oh is a convoluted rules, then you should check out Dungeon Dice Monsters because there's no way that was going to work.
Ironically, the anime that was like the most accurate part of the anime at that point, which is really bizarre. Yeah, and then they went straight into Battle City, where the first episode was literally like, all right, we're actually establishing rules now.
Yep.
So everything
establishing rules, and we have a real plot.
Yeah. I remember, because then like I remember as a kid I was kind of bummed because I was like, oh, now the battles aren't as fun. But then I'm like, then you think about it and you're like, oh no, there's actual strategy involved.
Yeah, with the whole concept of sacrificing monsters came in, and everyone's like, wait a minute, we've been playing it wrong the whole time.
What, you mean the Toon Monsters can't just jump out of the way?
Nope. It's like that's why Kaiba was able to beat Pegasus in the movies because he actually had to use the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, Pegasus was drinking at the time.
That's true.
That's my hit. That's my fan theory.
And he was drinking wine, I'm pretty sure, by the pool when Kaiba showed up. So
Yeah, he drinks a lot of wine in the show.
he's a wealthy American.
Is he American?
He lives in America.
True.
So I don't know if he's supposed to actually be American, but that's where he lives. So
I could never tell with the the Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
I mean, I figure he's either American or he's English with a name like Maximilian.
Um. So the first couple episodes of Battle City are pretty like, what the hell?
It's kind of just setting it up. Like we meet, what's her name? Shizu.
Oh yeah, Shizune. She gives Kaiba um this guy.
Yeah, Obelisk.
This is the fun version that you can actually use in game.
Yep.
Yeah, she gives him Obelisk, and he's basically just like, she's like, "Hey, I need you to do this thing," and he's like, "Fuck that, I want rare cards."
Yeah, he's just like, I'm not giving you this back. I'm like, screw you.
Basically, she just kind of tricked him into doing a tournament, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we get, of course, like all of the. There's a few like setup episodes, like the. I like the first couple episodes because it was kind of like the last time we were going to see like the old style dueling arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got Yugi versus possessed Bandit Keith because they stole the puzzle.
Yeah, because it was just a random gigantic friggin' Dual Monsters stadium in the middle of a warehouse.
Of course.
Like what? Who is building these? Like,
I love the fact though that like the whole plot thing was like Yugi puts the puzzle on this massive chain because he's all like worried that people are after it now.
like a
And then
legit, like the kind of chains that you would see in a warehouse, like the big ass fucking chains
yeah.
that you could like pull an engine out of a car or something. Like,
And then he falls for the dumbest fucking thing everywhere. It's like some random street fortune teller's like, "Sir, let me see your rare item. I want to get it tested for fortunes."
yeah, your priceless ancient Egyptian antique.
Yeah. And Yugi's all like, "Oh, what's the harm that could happen here?" And then he
Yeah,
runs away with it. And it's like, shocker, you didn't see that one coming.
for real.
Um,
Stupid.
and then he faces off against Bandit Keith, who we hadn't seen since he got flushed down Pegasus's island toilet, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
And it's apparently confirmed that he got picked up by Merrick, who just happened to be offshore at the time.
That's about right. That
And this
sounds
is
very anime.
yeah, and this is pre insane Merrick, where he was evil, but he wasn't like psychotic evil yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that duel is really annoying because he cheats the entire time, and Yugi like he also smashes the puzzle.
Oh yeah, that's right. And he
That
has
was
to like try and rebuild it while the building is burning down around him.
yeah, and then they have to like rip it off the wall because Yugi fucking they're like, why did he have to use such a strong chain?
And he continues to use the chain afterwards. But then I'm pretty sure when the arc is over, he goes back to regular rope. Or like
I'd have to remember because I swear the chain was in Dark Side of Dimensions.
maybe, I don't know.
Um, yeah, the Battle City's interesting to me though because like there's also the arc where they introduce the dual discs, which was just to sell toys.
I had one.
I had one too. We all did. Did you actually duel with one?
I tried, but I always had more than 40 cards in my deck, so I'd end up just kind of like having my deck to the side. You never play with them outside because it doesn't matter what the show says. If you try to play it outside, your cards are going to blow away.
We did this. It was great. The cards would fly off the disc and you have to chase after them.
You standing on opposite sides of the field, like, I play this. What?
We did dead ass. We did this at recess, and we looked like fucking idiots. It was great.
I mean, that was half the fun of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because every kid who played the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game was going out of their way to emulate the show, so they'd always
Oh
be
yeah.
super dramatic about it.
Oh
Every
yeah, like flinging hands around, like screaming at the top of your lungs.
like
And of course,
okay.
I was gonna say the dual discs were the point where like the popularity was starting to wane a little bit. So like it wasn't like a universal thing by this point. So like if you had the dual disc, you were like one of the crazy fans, and everyone else was just looking at you like, oh, he's one of those.
Mm-hmm. But it was cool though, because you'd throw it on and it would do the whole like thing where it would snap together and go over to the side and shit. Like it had a little life point counter on it. Like it was cool.
But if your
Uh,
cards were in card protectors, you were
nope.
out of luck.
Nope.
And the things destroyed your cards over time as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you get any cards stuck in the field bonus slot?
I didn't generally use field cards, so no.
I used to hide cards in there, and I got like 2 stuck in my dual disc somehow.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the card game so much as a kid, and even a little bit into adulthood, because I still had all my old cards. So whenever I encounter somebody who had cards, I'd be like, yeah, yeah, fucking let's play. Whatever. Like my buddy Steve, we used to play.
That was a very the speaking of the dual disc, that was actually a really easy, like a common cheat that people would do that not everyone was aware of. The you would hide a specific card in the field power bonus slot, and because you were so far away when you were playing, you would play a field bonus card just for the sake of having to open the door, and then
Mhm.
you'd slip out the card you needed that was in there, and you'd put the card in.
Yeah, I wasn't smart enough to try and do that kind of sleight of hand. I wasn't smart enough or smooth enough to pull that off.
Well, the benefit was you were so far away from each other that it was hard to tell what you were doing, because you just kind of could make it look like you were fumbling getting the thing in there because it was a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also had no concept of how to build decks either as a kid, so
Oh, I didn't either.
my decks sucked.
I didn't either, because I had this bastard in my deck all the time.
Yeah, well, I did the same thing with my first card, but like, yeah, I played the card game so much throughout my life that even now, where I haven't played the game in years, like my wife will make fun of me because whenever we play any card game, it's just like ingrained in me to pick up the cards like I'm playing, like they do with with like the 2 fingers on the top. Like it's just one of those things that's so ingrained that I do it no matter what card game I'm playing.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of the show, the episode where they get the dual discs, I always remember that one because like they obviously Kaiba set up the system of who's ranked, like in where people stand.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Yugi's a 5-star duelist, so of course he got a dual disc. And then Joey, of course, because Kaiba hates his guts, made him a 1-star duelist.
Mm-hmm.
But because they saw his rarest card was the Red Eyes Black Dragon, they cheated and gave him his disc anyways, just to steal it from him.
Yep. Which is like one of those just like really shitty like vindictive things to do, because he did come second place in the last tournament, second only to the King of Games. So I mean, it is kind of just like a shitty, like I'm just doing this to be an asshole thing.
I mean, Kaiba doesn't even like respect Joey until like the end of season 3, and even then, it's only just a begrudging kind of respect.
Yeah.
Um.
Did
Yeah,
you like Joey's play style?
I liked it in season 2 on because I liked his whole like gambling trick style.
Yeah.
His original deck was just a joke because it made no. It was just it had no structure at all.
No, not at all.
It was basically Time Wizard, Red Eyes, Flame Swordsman.
I see. I liked his play style, especially like now that I'm older. I like his play style a lot because I feel like he would grow up and then lose all his money in a casino.
Yeah, probably.
Because I feel like his play style is just like supposed to be like representative of the fact that he has a gambling problem.
Yeah. You know, the other thing about season 2 that it introduced was the whole concept of like the winner gets the rarest card in the other player's deck.
Yeah, that was a cool concept.
That was a cool concept, but it ruined playing the game in real life because no one wanted to play anymore after that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Well, yeah, because it was like because you get the one asshole to be like, no, you have to do it, and it's like, but no one else wants to, so it's like,
I'd be like, well, I'm not playing. Screw you.
yeah,
Like you,
that's
yeah,
basically what happened. Like it would just kind of become like, oh, no one wants to play anymore
yeah.
because
I'd
no
be
one
like,
wants to lose their cards.
it looks like my cards are going in my binder now.
Pretty much. Um, or you'd get the sane people who just said, we're not doing that shit.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was an interesting concept though, because it was basically like that's how like Joey's deck got built in season 2, because like he lost his red eyes early on, obviously
Hmm.
in that same episode by the guy with the fake Exodias.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
hated that guy. That whole little like mini arc with like them trying to win back the red eyes. I thought that was stupid as fuck.
I just always remember that because his second appearance was all like, Kai was like, Yugi's gonna lose to the card he beat me with, and it's like, no, he's not, because he's fucking Yugi. He's gonna find his way out of it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, that was another case where Joey had a really good duel going on too, and then the guy just pulls out some bullshit tactic at the end to beat him.
Hmm.
Um, but what was cool about this arc was Yugi was on his own quest, because they kind of did a cool thing where they didn't all travel together this time. They were all off doing their own shit.
Yeah.
And like Yugi was obviously doing like important stuff involving like the puzzles and stuff. And then Joey's off just trying to get his locator cards, because that was the MacGuffins of this season.
Hmm.
Um, but Joey had all the cool battles, honestly. Yugi's battles were just kind of like they were cool too, but not nearly as entertaining.
I mean, I like the Arcana battle because I like the con. Well, first of all, like the alternate Dark Magician looks cool. Like I like the red suit Dark Magician with like the darker look to him.
Yeah,
And that was also the introduction of the Dark Magician girl.
true. I did like that. That was a good fight, but that was also pre Yugi getting Slifer. And once Yugi got Slifer, he got so fucking wangsty about everything for some reason.
Yep.
He's like, I don't want to use this card. It's evil or some shit. I'm like, Yugi, shut up.
I mean, to be fair, in the context of the show, even just painting the cards was enough to kill the guy. So,
True. That is true.
but I
Um,
love the implication of like the whole like power of the Egyptian god cards is that the ancient Egyptian religion is the true religion, and everything else is bullshit.
yeah, yes. Yeah, the Arcana fight was fun. Also, the fucking Shadow Realm buzzsaws. I love
Yep,
that shit. Which were
for
just
real.
buzzsaws in the manga.
Yeah, it was awesome. Although I think one of
Um,
my favorite duels in this arc was when Joey was like mind controlled and
oh, the
Yugi and
Yugi.
Joey had to fight.
That was a fun fight. But even though it was so weird, because like you just anytime Joey isn't Joey, it just feels weird.
If you ever want to get completely obliterated, play the Yu-Gi-Oh drinking game with that duel.
Yeah.
It's anyone who doesn't know the Yu-Gi-Oh drinking game is when you watch Yu-Gi-Oh and you take a drink every time someone says friend or friendship.
Yeah. The power of friendship. Oh, speaking of power of friendship, we forgot to talk about the fucking hand thing.
Oh yeah, the fucking smiley face. I
Face.
completely forgot about that. That comes up so many times throughout the series.
Especially in season 1, where it's like that's right, our friendship pact. It's like
Mm-hmm. It's like the four kids like suicide pact essentially. Like
basically. Speaking of Joey though, like his honestly, you gained so much respect for Joey in like Battle City, because like he his deck got stacked by the end of that season, because like he got Jinzo from Esporoba, another cheater that he beat.
Jinzo is a sick card.
Jinzo becomes his main card pretty much after that until he gets Red Eyes back.
Mm.
Yeah, Jinzo's fun. He got the insect queen from Weevil.
Which I mean is he still used it, but it was practically useless in his deck because
Yeah,
it kind of revolved around having an insect deck.
yeah. Oh, and then he also got the legendary fisherman from Mako. It was kind of cool that he was getting these iconic cards from the previous season,
Hmm.
even though he was like stealing them from like these notable characters.
I just thought it was funny that like half the time he was just dueling all the people that Yugi beat in the first season.
Yeah, well, they were just giving Joey a second chance to like be like, yeah, I'm cool now.
Yep. I did my dual monsters training.
Mm. Yeah, there was that. There was those were his three main fights because like after that he got all his locator cards, I believe, right?
Yes. I think he only had those 3 duels.
Yeah, like
Uh,
because they could bet multiple locator cards at duels and stuff. It was weird how they
yeah.
did it.
My
Because then
favorite
you,
was how Bakura got his, where he literally just stole somebody's duel disc and then he challenged the zombie kid.
yeah, and beat them up, basically.
I'm pretty sure in the manga he just straight up kills them.
Well, Bakura was in a fucking coma at the time too, which makes it even more bizarre.
Yeah, I think that was a self-induced coma though,
Yeah, yeah, it was
because he had like formed a pact with Merrick.
that later he gets betrayed with,
Yeah,
predictably. He also put his spirit in the Millennium Puzzle so he could explore it while Yugi without Yugi knowing.
which would come back around in the final arc.
Yeah, yeah. Yami Bakura is a fucking probably one of the most complex characters in this fucking series.
In my personal opinion, he's the best villain.
Well, because he's the only arc villain that goes on the entire series.
Yeah, he's like kind of like a minor annoyance throughout most of the series, and then it's like, surprise, I'm the final boss.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I was thinking Yugi's fights were less interesting. Like Yugi had, I mean, he had Arcana. The Bones fight was fun until it got really predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole gimmick with that fight is also one of the reasons why I have a revival jam in my deck is that was like where the revival jam uh, strategy came from. Even though Yugi completely just breaks it in half on him.
And it also does not work the same way in the real game.
No, you can't just infinitely draw cards like that.
No, it doesn't. And even if you did, you would just end up losing, like the mime guy did.
I love how so the mime guy is hilarious because it's literally just Merrick like mind controlling him the entire fight.
Mm-hmm.
And when he loses, he's so mad. He's like, "God damn it, I lost one of the cards."
Yeah, one of the ultimate cards.
And Yugi's so like butthurt about it. He's like, "I don't even want this, but I guess I have to take it."
Yep. Just like, well, it's better that I have it than he has it, so screw it.
He never uses Slifer either. He uses Slifer like twice.
Yeah, I think he uses it. I think he only uses it in the
Championship,
like the final tournament.
Yeah, there's 2 specific fights he uses it because he does not. So the next fight Yugi has is with it's the double duel on the roof against the two rare hunters or whatever their names were.
Yeah, I don't. Loomis and Umbra.
Yeah, those guys, the guys with the masks.
Yeah, I hated those guys. I liked their monster, like the masked beast guy, but literally everything else about that duel I thought was stupid.
I mean, the only reason I fucking love that duel is because it has like my favorite line of monsters in it.
Oh, the Magnet Warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love these guys.
mm-hmm.
And it's like one of the. I think it's like the only time in that season that Valkyrian appears.
Not 100% sure. Maybe I don't know because he uses the Valkyrian strategy at least once. I think he might use it again, but I get confused because he also uses like the Queen's Knight, King's Knight, Jack's Knight strategy too.
Yeah, Yugi's deck was interesting in this season because it was very different from his. He clearly had his own deck by this point, and it wasn't just his grandpa's deck.
Yeah, he still had some of the leftover cards, but he mostly had his own stuff going on. Like Buster Blader, I fucking love Buster Blader.
Buster Blade was a cool one.
Mm.
Like he still had obviously like the main recurring ones like Summon Skull, Gaia, the Fierce Knight, Dark Magician, obviously.
Although I think he switched out Gaia for a variant, like one of the other Gaia cards, the Swift Gaia.
Yeah, something like that.
Is there one
Oh,
that you could just play him if you had like not that many cards in your hand?
yeah, Curse of Dragon would appear every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But like mainstays like Komori Dragon and stuff, they were all gone by then.
I liked Komori Dragon though. He was cool.
Yeah, he was cool. Yugi stopped using him after a while.
Yeah, well, it gets to a point where it's like, well, if he doesn't have at least like 16, 1700 attack points, then it is,
Yeah.
what's the point? Unless he has like a cool ability.
Speaking of decks, like that, we also got to see more of Kaiba's deck in that duel, and Kaiba's deck was hilarious in the original season because like it infamously only had like one card that was like weak, and they were all overpowered monsters. Other than that,
Yeah, I think Saga the Dark Clown was the only one he had, which actually, come to think of it, I had a misprint of Saga the Dark Clown when I was a kid. I had one where his attack and defense was swapped.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah,
Wish
his deck is much better off in this one though because he actually has a balanced one because he has to follow his own rules.
Mm-hmm.
I remember too because I thought that was going to be a duel where we'd see Slifer, but no, Yugi doesn't use Slifer. Instead, they just wait for Kaiba to use Obelisk.
Yeah, which actually, come to think of it, I think he did use Valkyrian in. I think he used that as a strategy to play Slifer one of the times. I think he played Valkyrian and then he separated it back into the three.
I think so. I know he uses Valkyrian in the opening arc, well, the opening like episode of Waking the Dragons, which, yay. But yeah. And then after the double trouble duel is what they called it. No, that was the first double duel. It was just called double duel for Battle City.
I don't know.
I don't know. All I remember is after they won that one, they got their locator cards, and then that's when the Joey mind control thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I laughed because like the episode leading up to that, where they're in the helicopter, is just a fucking
clip show.
Yeah, I was like, even in the Yu-Gi-Oh, there's fucking clip shows.
It's more than one too.
I know. What'd you think of the Blimp Championship thing?
The whole championship itself, or just the fact that they were on a blimp?
A little of both, I guess.
The blimp makes a lot of sense with just how like ridiculous the show is.
Oh yeah,
because at that point it's just like I completely accept the fact that they're on a blimp. It doesn't matter. Like
it was pretty cool. I loved like when they were like waiting for them all to show up for the thing. It's like you have like the obvious like people that won and got in. It was like, oh yeah, we know all these people. And then it's like at this point they think Merrick is Odeon.
Yeah.
Bakura shows up and they're like, Bakura, you were in the fucking hospital. How are you here?
Yeah. Not only how are you here, but how did you enter the tournament and get all 6 cards within like 6 hours?
Yeah. And then Merrick shows up, but he's been like going around as this character named Mako or Mako or something.
Something like that.
Or Matu. Some stupid name that was
he had a big
obvious.
name.
But the whole time he accidentally lets it go that he's a duelist because he lifts his arm and has the duel disc on, and they're like, "We didn't know you were a duelist," and he's like, "Shit."
Yep. I love that whole bit too because the whole time Joey's kind of like side eyeing him, like I don't know, I get a weird vibe off of him, but I don't know, he seems nice, so whatever, I'll just ignore it.
Like, as he's brainwashing him the entire time.
Yeah.
And then like he shows up for the tournament. They're like, "Oh, you're in this too. I see. Cool."
Yeah.
What was the? Oh yeah, and then they all the friends bum rush the blimp to get on and pass the guard, and he just goes like, "Fuck it, I don't care."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then Shiju shows up after they're all on, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm here."
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool how that like little like sibling trio with Merrick, Odeon, and Ishizu, like they all have like their own strategies. Like how Ishizu pretty much exclusively used spell cards, Odeon used trap cards, and Merrick was all about the monsters.
Yeah. They were fun. Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about Mai's stalker like romantic interest that happened right before this.
Oh, that was weird.
That was such a weird filler episode.
He's just like, I'm just gonna kidnap you to make you marry me because that's how that works.
That was like just to tease the Joey Mai ship that they immediately like killed off after this arc was over.
Yeah, it's like they're leading up to it, and then Joey's like, but card games.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the duels up on the blimp were really awesome. Like Yugi and Bakura is like the best one still, I think.
Which one?
Yugi and Bakura.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because you get to see Slifer wrap around the fucking blimp.
Yeah, it just I don't think you can really appreciate the size of Slifer until that duel, because like you can tell he was big in his first appearance, but like it's not until he's actually like wrapping around the blimp multiple times that you're like, oh shit, he's like really big. Like,
Yeah, that was fun. That was also like Bakura used a bunch. One of my favorite like trap cards, the Destiny board.
mm-hmm.
I've never actually seen Destiny board work, but I still like it.
I think I did it once.
Well, because you needed all the tokens, and like you never had all the tokens.
Well, the problem with that one was it. The closer you get to completing it, the less spell and trap space you have,
Yeah.
and you have to play them in order.
Yes. Yeah. That's the key, and that also is why it's one of those things that's just so hard to fucking pull off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that fight was pretty awesome. I'm trying to think, like, was the fight after that Joey versus Odeon Merrick?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where like all of Joey's like monsters get eaten by the mystical beast circuit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's when that the one following that was when Mai gets put into a coma, and the one right after that is when Ishizu and Kaiba fight.
Yes, yeah. What? So that fight annoyed the Odeon Joey fight annoyed the shit out of me because like all of Joey's monsters get stolen basically, and like the circuit becomes this abomination. And Joey's basically gonna lose at this point. He's like screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And um what happens is so dumb is Odeon's basically like guaranteed to win, but then Merrick's all like, no, use the fake winged dragon of Ra. You have to do it to prove you're me.
Yeah, which this like first of all, nobody's questioning that. Like everyone fully believes that that's
Yeah.
Merrick.
Like
And second of all,
he had the
like,
fake rod.
yeah. And second of all, it's been made pretty clear that if you piss off the Egyptian gods, they're gonna fucking lash back.
Yeah. Also, in reality, if they really wanted this plan to work, Merrick could have just given him the real one.
Yeah, and like the way that they explain it is like, oh, Odeon can't have the real one because only people with ties to ancient Egypt can control the Egyptian gods. But you find out later in season 5 that he is directly descended from one of the pharaoh's like disciples.
Yeah.
So it's like he does have that tie. He could have used it.
I know. It was just a dumb it was just one of those dumb ways of like basically making it so Joey was gonna win.
Yeah.
But that's we also get to see the fake. It was also they needed the catalyst to bring Yami Merrick in.
Yeah. Which as a kid, I thought that there was a spirit inside the Millennium Rod. And then like later on, I'm like, oh no, he's actually just crazy. Like,
yeah, he's got serious trauma because his family's fucked.
Yeah, and he killed his dad.
Yeah, that flashback was fucking terrifying as a child.
For real. Especially since I don't even think that they like legitimately showed it.
No, but it was so obvious.
But like, yeah, it was pretty obvious that he stabbed him. Like, I mean, the Millennium Rod is basically just a knife.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was an axe.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way that at least in like the Japanese footage, like that 4Kids didn't fuck with, There's actually like it's like a sheath, like the rod part of it. You pull it out, and it's just
Oh yeah,
it's a dagger.
that's true. There's also the rod in Forbidden Memories that was like a staff.
I guess you could like throw an attachment on it or something.
Yeah, well, before they were finalized, like they had like these weird, wild designs, and the rod was like this really wacky one in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that fight was bizarre, and then it was basically just an excuse for Joey to win.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, then the Merrick Mai fight was absurd.
Yeah, it was kind of kind of not so interesting. The only really like benefit to that duel, in my opinion, is at least as a viewer, was it introduced the Amazonas line,
True.
and honestly, like that line is actually pretty damn good if you use it right. The Amazonas swordwoman is broken as fuck.
That was also the moment that confirmed the whole how Raw worked, because like you got because Mai steals Raw from him at one point, and then like she tries to play it, and it's like, nope, you can't use it.
Yep, you got to know the magic words.
Yeah,
like
it's
what the
like
fuck?
you gotta know how to summon the Super Dragon Balls,
Yeah,
basically. Peas and carrots, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, and then Mai gets put in a hourglass and just gets to watch fucking trauma the rest of the season.
yep. I think I'm not sure how it is in the manga because I don't have that far into it, but in the anime it was weird because it was like she was trapped in an hourglass and she was just like hovering over a beach watching all of her friends have a good time.
Yeah, and the more the sand fell through, the more memory she lost. It
Hmm.
was really
Really
fucked
weird.
up. Um,
Um,
and then the Ashiju Kaiba fight to me is very interesting, just because like Ashizu's gonna win that, and then Kaiba fucking just gets like, because she like insults him, and Kaiba being Kaiba is like, no, I'm gonna do this my way, and then fucking just Blue Eyes White Dragons everything, and it's like, oh,
yeah, because I think
okay.
I think her strategy was something like she had set something up where like
There was like a virus that was gonna kill Obelisk or whatever
I
if he
think what
played it.
if I remember right, I think it was something like he took control of one of her, or he used like Soul Exchange or something to sacrifice her monsters to play Obelisk,
Yes.
and one of them like had like an ability or something that would make Obelisk like self-destruct when he attacked or something, and then Kaiba would lose. And then Kaiba had like a weird vision, and
Well, yeah,
he was
because
like, he was like,
he's
all right, I'm gonna sacrifice my Egyptian god to play my Blue Eyes.
yeah, because he's still in fucking denial about the whole being related to the Egyptian sorcerer guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Um.
yeah,
So yeah, that was the whole thing.
and then that's where the virtual world happens, and it happens.
Yeah, not much to say. It
That
introduced the whole deck master system, which would have been kind of cool if that was like an actual like alternate rule to play the game with, because that actually seemed kind of cool. Um, and the character design for Noah is literally just the season 0 design for Kaiba.
yes. Um yeah, and we got a lot of backstory about the Kaiba family.
Mm-hmm.
My own the only my only problem with this season is it would be cool if they had stuck it somewhere else, but it's in the middle of a fucking arc, right at a crucial point where a lot of shit was happening too.
Yeah, like if it had happened between arcs, like that would have been reasonable, and I would have liked that more. But as a kid watching it, like, oh, I only get like 2 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh every Saturday, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little frustrating when you're like all invested in this big tournament that's happening. It's like, all right, we're gonna put that on hold, and Tay is gonna duel a penguin. Like,
Yes. And Tristan's gonna be a monkey for an entire season while some other guy stole his body.
yeah, it was bizarre. Um,
But
but
yeah, then
there was some things to like about it though.
yeah, if it was placed anywhere else, I think people wouldn't hate it nearly as much as they do.
one of the cool things, like they I forget exactly how they portray it in the show, but when they're telling Kaiba's backstory about how he won, like got the company from um Gozaburo, I think is
Yeah.
his name. How it was like this whole thing where he like got enough of the shares or whatever, and like basically just like stole the company from under him. And in the show, it kind of makes it seem like his dad is just like, oh, well, screw, and then he just leaves and like puts his mind to the virtual world or whatever. But in the manga, he like Kaiba's like, oh yeah, I got your company, you're nothing now, blah blah blah. And then Gozaburo, I forget exactly what he says, but it's something like, oh, like you're never gonna be happy and you're gonna be just like me, blah blah blah. And then he legit jumps out of the window and falls to his death.
The manga was very extreme.
It was super extreme. It was so like extra. Like it was very like the manga is much more edge lord
Yeah.
than the anime, and that's saying something. They wear a lot of like leather and chains in the anime.
Belts. Kaiba's jacket alone.
Yeah, the coattails.
Just Kaiba and everything about Kaiba's edgy.
Yeah, his Blue Eyes White Dragon jet.
Yeah. His theme park. His creating a school designed to play children's card games,
Yeah, he's not crazy. I'm gonna build an elevator to the moon.
He went back in time. That is still the most Kaiba thing and the most what the fuck thing ever.
For real.
Oh man.
Jeez.
But yeah, the ending of Battle City, like after they get out of the computer, the island's about to explode and they get in a jet. The blimp turns into a jet. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then they land at the duel tower where they have to have their big final fights.
Yep. And they have like to determine like the order, they have like this weird four-way duel where it's like, oh, the first two to lose this four-way duel are gonna duel each other, and the two that win are gonna duel each other.
That was cool, but at the same time, I was like, they could have just made this so much more easy by just doing a shuffle or something.
Yeah. But whatever. Can only draw lots so many times.
The fights were pretty good though. Yugi and Kaiba was really entertaining.
Yeah,
because Yugi beat Kaiba again, but it was like a legit fight this time.
That was probably the best duel in the arc, in my opinion.
That was the best Yugi Kaiba duel, I think, in general.
It was the last one too, I'm pretty sure.
Well, unless you count the one in the movie.
Yeah, nobody counts that one. And that was inconclusive anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that duel was cool. And I liked how like the first like episode or two was all about like who's gonna bring out the Egyptian god first. And they just keep pulling out all these cards like, well, I played this card, which makes your guy lose this much attack. Well, I played this one that makes me draw 3 more cards, so Slifer's this much stronger now. And they keep doing all this till eventually they have the same attack and they cancel each other out, and both Egyptian gods are gone. And then they're like, all right, well, we're reduced to our regular style, and it just becomes Dark Magician versus Blue Eyes again.
It was a cool fight, though. Like, I really liked that one.
Well, it introduced Dark Paladin, which is really cool.
Yeah. No, that was a great fight. Unfortunately, the Joey Merrick fight, once again, Joey comes so fucking close.
He almost wins. He just loses his strength.
Yeah, that annoyed the fuck out of me because it's like
every
fucking time.
If he could have just stayed conscious for a few more seconds, he would have won.
I get the fact that they had to have Merrick win because they need the big climax, but that annoyed me.
I was saying it would have been fucking hilarious if he made it further in the tournament than Kaiba did.
I know. I know. Oh man. That was another great Joey fight though. That pissed me off so much.
Mm-hmm.
Then before we get to the Yugi and Merrick fight, there actually is a cool thing where Joey's all like, because you think Joey's lost his soul here, but then he wakes up like 5 minutes later and he's fine.
No, he's just in a coma.
Yeah, because he gets out of it really quick. Because then he wants to. He basically is like, he goes up to Kaiba and he's like, "We need to duel for third, basically.
Yeah.
And Kaiba's like, go away. And he's like, no, let's duel. And
Yeah.
Kaiba relents. And it's actually a pretty good fight.
Yeah, Joey does pretty well. I don't think he comes quite as close to beating Kaiba as he does with Merrick, but
No.
I think
But
Kaiba's deck is just tailor made to whoop Joey's ass. Like,
yeah. But I mean, even Kaiba after it his respect for Joey goes up a little bit.
mhm.
In the sense though where now he at least considers him a worthy duelist.
But he still calls him a loser at any given chance.
Well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't like him, but I mean, he'll
Yeah.
at least admit that he deserves to be there.
Mhm.
That was a good ending to that whole rivalry, I guess, because they never really fight again after that.
Not to my memory now.
No significant fights, anyways. But yeah, the Yugi Merrick fight is interesting. There's a lot of weird Shadow Realm bullshit going on.
Yeah, well, they have the whole thing where like
He
their like
separates
good
Yugi.
halves are
Yeah,
separated, and like the more life points you lose, the closer, like the more that person starts to deteriorate.
yeah, and it's like by the end of it, it's literally like Merrick's just a fucking eye in the corner over there.
Yeah, and I love the way that happens because the whole time it's just like the quote unquote good Merrick is like, oh, he's too strong, I can't do anything. And then Odeon shows up and he's like, Merrick, this is your body, you can do what you want. He's like, oh, he's right, and he just swap places.
Also, fucking like Yami Merrick is fucking like deformed as fuck at this point now. Like he's got all these veins and shit coming out of his face.
It's some of the most like nightmare inducing shit. Like he freaked me out when I was a kid.
He also like does this bullshit where like he because of the way Winged Dragon of Ra works is you can technically summon it without tributing, but it'll have no attack points because it absorbs the attack points of the three monsters you use to summon it.
Yeah.
But he does this bullshit where he's all like, I'm gonna summon it now, and then I'm gonna change to Phoenix mode and then give it all of my life points except for one.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure.
Hence that's the eyeball.
Yeah. It was like such a dumb thing.
Yeah.
I did like that he also clones Obelisk at one point.
Yeah, he's like a slime clone or something.
Which I feel like was just intimidation tactics because it really didn't do anything.
Yeah. I feel like the further the show went on, like the more they tried to like up the tension or whatever, was they'd always make it seem like it was an unwinnable fight because like the person that the good guy is fighting would always have like, oh, now I have like 20,000 life points. But like that doesn't matter. You can knock that down super quick.
Yeah, it was always some stupid shit. Yugi does inevitably win, and he gets all the god cards and like every Millennium item.
Yeah,
basically. And then they all go back home.
Yay!
And then Waking the Dragons happens.
Yep, and we get 2 filler arcs.
You know what pissed me off the most about Waking the Dragons?
What's that?
The fucking god cards get taken in the first fucking episode. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I mean, you got to take the bullshit main character powers away at least a little bit.
But we know Yugi was never gonna use them because he fucking hates them.
True.
Oh yeah, we forgot the movie technically came between these two.
Yeah.
Do you want to just not?
It certainly did.
Are you like Alex, Alex like legit fell asleep in like 10 minutes in because it was that.
I liked it when I was a kid.
Well, yeah, as a kid it was great, and then you watch it now and you're like, this is terrible.
And it had some good ideas, and honestly, like the whole concept of like, I still don't understand how it happened, but how there was like all the weird like mummies and stuff inside the Millennium Puzzle, and everybody ends up inside of it for some reason, and
yeah, those
weird
like
there was some cool stuff.
Those weird like Egyptian cards that you could get by going to the movie.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, I ended up with 2 of them because I went with my mom, and I got one and she got one, and she just gave me hers because she didn't care. So I ended up with 2 of them. And then you got the Pyramid of Light from buying the VHS of all things,
Hmm.
and it was useless.
Yeah, because it did not do what it says it does.
No. Oh, there was also Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. That was like the one card that everyone liked from this movie.
Which also is not worth the trouble.
No, not at all. Uh, yeah, that movie happens like massive destruction to Kaiba Corp, like usual.
Mhm.
Uh, also the whole like you get to see Kaiba get his revenge on Pegasus. That's like I guess like the one cool thing that happens in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. Because they kind of try to do that with the Waking the Dragons, but then it turns out it's not Pegasus.
Yeah, that's the one time where I think the games did it better because Reshef of Destruction is like the much better game follow up to do it Battle City.
Yeah, I played about 5 minutes of that game.
Oh, the game is garbage, but the story is the story is interesting.
I mean, maybe one day I'll give it another try. I'm just, I think I might have given my copy to my little brother. I'll have to ask him about that.
For those who don't know, Reshef of Destruction was essentially it is the sequel to the Sacred Cards. Now, the Sacred Cards was a essentially a retelling of Battle City, but you play as a self-insert character, um, and you essentially take over for Yugi throughout the entire game.
You kind of take over for everybody because every major duel that happens throughout that whole arc, it's you instead of the character it's
Yeah,
supposed to be.
yeah. Basically, it's like a fanfic where you're the main character of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that game's biggest criticism was it was pathetically easy, which it is.
It depends because there were aspects that made it somewhat difficult in the beginning.
Once
Um,
you figure it out, though, it's so easy.
I mean, basically, like the way to get through that game is to grind. You just gotta fight everybody because you have like a deck limit. Like each card that in your deck has like a certain amount of points that it's worth, and that
Yeah,
like that added up is like your deck value. And if that surpasses your deck limit, you can't use the deck. You have to like reorganize it. Um,
yeah,
so in the beginning of the game, that makes it a little bit more difficult because you're limited to what you can have in your deck. But the further you go in, the more you increase your deck limit, the less that matters.
yeah. Um,
Plus, you could type in the number on the bottom of your actual real life cards and just get them in the game.
yes, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, unfortunately, though, because that game, the battles themselves are very easy and predictable once you figured out the strategies. Um, Reshef of Destruction, on the other hand, decided to take everything and like pump it up to 10 because that game is brutally hard
Mm-hmm.
in every way imaginable. To the point where it doesn't even follow the rules; it just makes up bullshit as it goes along.
Yeah.
Um, but it has an interesting story, which is like an alternate universe, like that follows Battle City, where like Pegasus went rogue, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we got Waking the Dragons, which was like weird.
I liked the dragons.
The dragons were cool, but they like weren't real cards.
They became real cards eventually,
True.
and they like the way it worked was it was like the card worked like a polymerization, and like they like pretty much worked specifically with like those three specific monsters. Like it worked specifically with like Red Eyes, Dark Magician, and Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
And like you could get all these different like alternate versions of these cards. Or actually, I think Joey's worked with multiple monsters, but for the most part, it was like very specific.
Yeah. Uh, all I remember about this arc was like it had a few very key moments that made it stick out. Mostly Yugi's grandfather gets fucking beat up again. Um,
As he
by,
will.
by Rex
Mokuba,
and by Rex and Weevil of all people too.
yeah, Mokuba gets kidnapped as
Again.
usual.
Mai gets brainwashed again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, and then Yugi gets like fucking kidnapped, kind of.
He gets soul sucked.
Yeah. And then is it Tristan or Joey that punches Yami in the face?
Joey.
Joey, okay.
That was like a really well animated scene too. like wailed him in the face.
Yeah, that whole arc was so weird.
Yeah,
It's sad that Joey's best arc is the one that's fucking pointless filler.
true.
Because that arc ends, and then they immediately go back to like actual plot. Well, no, they go to this like other filler thing for like another half season.
Yeah, it's a filler tournament.
And then they finally get to like the actual like Pharaoh attempt stuff that we've been building up to this entire time.
Yes, which is arguably the best arc in the series, in my opinion.
It is. Other than the fact that Taya gets really fucking weird in this arc.
Does she?
Yeah, because she's like in love with both of them, and it's really weird.
Oh, well, she's kind of always like that.
Yeah, but now that she actually knows they're two people, it's like
But at this point, Yuki's gone through a growth spurt, and he's like pretty much just the Pharaoh.
he's not the in GX levels though, where he's just fucking ripped for no reason.
Yeah, at least you know he gets there.
Joey Yugi's appearance at the end of GX, right when he sends Jaden back in time, where you just see him from like it's like the nose down, and he's just fucking ripped. It's like what the fuck?
Yeah, screw it. Why not?
So we're getting close to 9. So honestly, Yu-Gi-Oh might have to be a 2-parter.
Yeah, that's fine. We can always pick it up because I could definitely go on about that last arc because there's a lot.
Last arc.
There's a lot that's going on in it. I might even rewatch it just for the next one.
Also talking about GX, which is a surprisingly better show than I remembered.
I'd have to actually go through it. I only watched like episodes here and there, and I never knew what was going on because it was like super all over the place.
I rewatched it in full like a couple of years ago, just out of curiosity. It's surprisingly a well done show. I never watched anything beyond that. Like I couldn't get into 5Ds or Z Axel or whatever the hell they're called now.
Yeah.
I did watch Dark Side of Dimensions, which we could also talk about in the next part. But yeah, unfortunately tonight I have a bit of a time limit, so we got to cut this one short.
Yeah, this could easily be a long because we haven't even really touched on any of the video games or even like the impact that Abridged has had on like the community itself. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot we could go into.
No, definitely. Honestly, do you want to just do part 2 next week?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. All right. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut it short this time, guys. But once again, thanks for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts now in its own feed. Remember that. On all of your podcasting platforms. You also have video versions of the podcast on YouTube. Hi, guys. And you can find all of our links at linktree/The Barber Who Games. And you can also join us at the GNC Podcast Network Discord server, where you can find all things gaming, collecting, 3DO experience, Geek Addicts, talk gaming, anime, or just general nonsense. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
Yeah, have a good one.